let's talk about politics. Oh, no. Not politics from today. Politics from way back when. We're going to talk about politics in the book of Acts, chapters 24 and 25. Now, you know about Paul, how he was out preaching the gospel, and, the Jews heard about it, and the Jews didn't like it, and so they were going to try to kill Paul, and the Romans got him, and they took him away, and they kept him safe, and he was sent away from Jerusalem because the Jews were going to kill him, and so he's in prison. And Felix was the governor. And so Felix, he hears him. He likes to listen to him. He likes to listen to what Paul has to say. Kind of scared of him, but he'll listen. So what happens? Felix comes to the end of his term. It's time for somebody else to take over. Now, Felix has found nothing wrong with Paul. He likes Paul. He likes hearing what he has to say. And he knows that Paul has done nothing to break Roman law. There's been no proof offered against him. But let's look at verse 27 of chapter 24. After 2 years had passed, Felix was succeeded by Porcius Festus, and wishing to do the Jews a favor, Felix left Paul in prison. Did you notice that? Wishing to do the Jews a favor. The people who had accused Paul, we got to do them a favor. We got to keep in good standing with the Jews, right? So we're going to do them a favor. We're just going to leave Paul here in jail. Yeah, what about doing Paul a favor, But Paul's still in jail. So Festus comes. He hears about Paul. And the influential man, we'll just start in verse 5 here, chapter 25. Therefore, he said to them, let the influential man among you go there with me, and if there's something wrong about the man, let them prosecute him. And after they'd spent not more than 8 or 10 days among them, he went down to Caesarea. So he's going from Jerusalem to Caesarea. And some of the Jews come down with him. The next day, he took his seat on the tribunal and ordered Paul to be brought. So now Festus is going to listen to Paul. This is interesting here. After he had arrived, the Jews who had come down from Jerusalem stood around him, bringing many and serious charges against Paul, which they could not prove. And while Paul said in his own defense, I have committed no offense against either the law of the Jews or against the temple or against Caesar. Verse 9. But Felix, wishing to do the Jews a favor, answered Paul and said, are you willing to go up to Jerusalem and stand trial before me on these charges? But Paul said, I'm standing before Caesar's tribunal where I ought to be tried. I have done no wrong to the Jews, and you also very well know. If then I'm a wrongdoer and have committed anything worthy of death, this is pretty bold here. I do not refuse to die. But if none of those things are true to which these men accuse me, no one can hand me over to them. I appeal to Caesar. So now Festus is stuck. He wants to do the Jews a favor, so he's not going to release Paul. But now Paul he's appealed to Caesar, to the highest court in the land. What's Festus going to do now? Well, King Agrippa comes with his wife, and they listen to Paul. And Festus, he says, let's see. He's telling King Agrippa, I found that he had committed nothing worthy of death. And since he himself appealed to the emperor, I decided to send him, but I have nothing definite to write about him to my Lord. Therefore, I have brought him before you all, and especially before you, King Agrippa, so that after the investigation has taken place, I may have something to write. For it seems absurd to me to send a prisoner not to indicate the charges against him. So you see, in wishing to do the Jews a favor, the Romans were kind of stuck. Now they've got this prisoner. They have to send him to Caesar. They don't know what to say about it. The point that I'm making in this little teaching about Paul and the Romans, you can get in trouble when you decide to do somebody a favor even when you know they're in the wrong. You do somebody a favor and it comes back to haunt you. You need to do what's right, even when it's hard. Politically, it would have been difficult to release Paul because the Jews didn't like him and they were in Israel, in the land of the Jews. And even though Rome was in control of the land, the Jews lived there. And whoever's ruling the land has to kind of get along with the people in order to keep the peace. So they do the Jews a favor and they keep the guy in prison. But now they're stuck with him. What are they going to do? They got to send him to Caesar. And there's a whole lot more to the story. We're not going to teach the entire book of Acts today. I just wanted to point out that in politics, when you decide to do somebody a favor and you're in the wrong, well, then you have a problem. You can look at modern politics in the United States of America. How many of our politicians are beholden to somebody, an entity, a lobbyist, who knows who, because I'm not a politician and I don't want to be. But we know that there's problems in our politics. We know that there's people that are doing what they ought not be doing, people that are not doing what they ought to be doing, people that are not doing what's best for their constituents, but are doing what's best for themselves or whoever's making them rich. Ooh, yeah, I'm going to say it. How can you be elected to Congress making, I don't know how much congressman makes, under $200,000 a year? And within a couple of years of being in Congress, suddenly you are a multimillionaire. Can somebody please explain that to me, how you do that legally? You legally become a multimillionaire? Because if there's a way to bring in $100,000 or $150,000 a year and become a multimillionaire that quickly, I'd like to know how to do it, because I'm not a millionaire, okay? I've lived my life legally my whole life. I've followed the law, did what I was supposed to do. Not a millionaire. Somebody can tell me how to do it legally, that'd be great. I'd appreciate it. In fact, if somebody will tell me how to do it legally, I'll share it with you. I sure will. If we can figure out a way to become multimillionaires making $100,000, $200,000 a year, I think we should all know how to do it, don't you? Okay. Backing off. Enough about politics and modern politics we're talking about in the book of Acts. Don't do somebody a favor when they know that the people you're doing a favor for is in the wrong. Okay? That's what we're going to say today. Thank you for watching. I'll see if I can dig myself out of this hole tomorrow.